Good morning, everybody. How is everybody this morning? And we've got Chris Cullum with us. Hey, Chris, how are you doing?
I'm well, thanks. Good morning, Carla.
Good. You go ahead and introduce yourself, and I'm going to share it to my own personal page. It's being shared everywhere else for us behind the scenes, but you tell everybody
Right.
who you are. And
My name's Chris Cullum. I spray out of Castlegar, British Columbia for Morrison Installation. This is 7 years I've been spraying now here, or no, 2 here, but I sprayed in Cranbrook for a couple of years as well before that. So
Oh, you did? I don't
I
think
did.
I knew that. Okay,
Okay. Yeah.
cool. And you've been with them, did you say, for 7 years?
No, I've been with Morrison for going on 3 years now, actually, now I
Oh,
think about it.
three.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's funny that we never crossed paths. My daughter lived in Castlegar for a little brief period of time.
Okay.
Yeah, and it was when Worldwide was going. I don't know why we didn't make that happen.
We're going
I
to
don't,
make it happen.
I think I thought you lived in Nelson.
Oh, okay. I was born in
Maybe.
Nelson, actually, but grew up in Toronto. So,
Oh, okay.
hmm
I did not know that either. All right. Well, I'm just getting my comments up here, so when people come on. Good morning, everybody. Keith, Blair. Yeah, so I guess we're here today, and we're going to talk about some good life stuff.
yeah, I like that.
Yeah, yeah. We've had a few people come on and kind of share their more personal stuff than business stuff, but I guess we'll talk about the business stuff first. So
Okay.
how did you get into the spray foam industry?
Actually, I was looking for a job, and a friend of mine just said, "You ever done spray foam insulation?" I had never even heard of it, so I
Mm,
took a look, and I remember the very first day I was there, I was like, "That's the coolest stuff I've ever seen in my life." And my
yeah.
boss said, "Well, the novelty goes away," and I'll tell you, 7 years later, the novelty hasn't gone away. It's still the coolest stuff I've ever got to play with.
Well, and you get to play with the pretty colored stuff too.
Yeah, I
Everybody
do.
is always loves the color, so
Yeah,
you get the
yeah,
nice stuff.
yeah, yeah. It's fun to work with.
Yeah. So were you just strictly like on the job training, or did you take any kind of like courses? Did you do those
I took a
things?
3-day BASF course in High
Yeah.
River, Alberta,
Okay.
and had my boss teaching me and coworker, who's a really good friend of mine,
Yeah.
and picked it up pretty naturally, actually.
Right.
Mm.
And so how did you come across Spray Foam Worldwide?
I had moved back to Castlegar to be
Yeah.
closer to my kids,
Hmm.
and a buddy that was spraying with us says, "You have a view on Spray Foam Worldwide?" No, never heard of it, so he hooked me up, and yeah,
The rest is
it's, the
history.
rest is history. Yeah,
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 it's obviously that's where you and I connected through was
yeah,
probably Worldwide. Yeah.
yeah. It was.
So it's been, and I think I'm trying to remember when it was probably 2 years ago, I would think that we connected.
Uh, yeah, 2.5 probably. Yeah,
Facebook will remind us when our anniversary date is.
yeah.
Yeah. But I think at that time you were going through some health stuff.
Yeah. I had just started foaming again,
Yeah.
and quit smoking. And 2 months later, I was diagnosed with stage 2B Hodgkin's lymphoma.
Right.
Um, Not job related or anything like that. Uh, it was pretty brutal at that point.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I remember you posting, I think it was you were posting about when you were getting treatments and stuff, and that's when it
Yeah,
kind of caught my attention outside of Worldwide, and I was like,
yeah.
what the heck is happening here? So, yeah, so you've come through that, and you've clean bill of health.
I had my year and a half checkup
Mm-hmm.
2 weeks ago, and I'm still clear.
Awesome.
Yeah, so
That's awesome.
it is.
Good.
It is. I still have body aches and pains that I attribute to the chemotherapy and
Yeah.
small, clotting issues, but whatever. I'm alive.
Yeah.
So,
Right. So
mhm.
when you were diagnosed with that, was it just you just weren't feeling good, or what were
I
some
had a
of your?
massive lump on my neck and under my armpit, and they had grown in
Oh.
like about a month. I
Hmm.
went into the doctor, and they said, well, I think it's a deep tissue infection. And I've had health issues in the past, and I just said no. It's not an infection. There's something going on. Well, we're going to put you on heavy duty antibiotics. Come back in 2 weeks. I
Yeah.
came back in 2 weeks, and it had grown under my armpit where I couldn't even put my arm down. I'm trying to spray, and it was really, really, really painful.
Yeah.
So they ran some more blood tests, and my white blood cell count was through the roof. I think it was 1,200 when it should be around 140.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so they were really surprised, actually. When I got a PET scan in Vancouver, they inject you with a radioactive sugar dye because sugars feed the cancer cells. And they put you in and they scan you, and every single tumor lights up on this scan. And about 80% of my body from my torso was black. It was cancer riddled. It was unreal, actually.
Really?
Yeah. So
Wow.
it had gotten into my lymph nodes and traveled through my blood and just started attacking my body.
Then the fight was on.
Yeah, the fight was on.
So
yeah.
you just, do you do chemo and radiation or just
no,
chemo?
Because it was blood related. Lymphoma is a blood cancer and a lymph node cancer. They can't target it with the radiation. So it was 12 rounds of heavy dose chemotherapy.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Dang, that's got to be tough. So 12 rounds, is that, so do you do that, do you get that once a month or how does it work?
I had every other Friday I was going in for chemotherapy. I was actually pretty blessed to go through cancer. I didn't have any time off. I didn't need any time off. My body accepted the chemotherapy and I worked through the whole thing.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Holy smokes.
So every 2 weeks I would go in, have a dose of chemotherapy, I'd recover Saturday, Sunday, and go back to work Monday.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's, I mean, because chemo is nothing to joke about. It's
No, it wasn't.
Hardcore.
My doctor was actually pretty surprised. That was one of the blessings, one of the miracles in my life. So,
right. And
yeah.
you've had a few miracles in your life.
I have.
Yeah.
Every day, actually, I'm grateful for another day.
Right.
Cool.
Yeah. So I guess we'll go backwards.
Okay. Oh boy.
So do you want to? Yeah, we'll go backwards. So you share what you want. So you said you grew up in. Did you say Toronto?
Just outside of Toronto in Bolton,
right.
Ontario. Yeah.
Okay, and then how did you end up out in BC?
That's a long story. Well, no, it isn't. My mom got remarried to an old friend that lived out in Cranbrook. So, 16 years old, I got shipped out to Cranbrook and met my stepbrothers. And yeah, it was a really interesting experience.
And how old were you at that time?
I was 16.
16, sorry, you said that, yeah.
Yeah.
So from there, you uprooted, moved, went to school.
Yeah, did high school.
Mm-hmm.
And I moved to Nelson in 2004 when I was 24 years old.
Right.
After fires. I met my ex-wife then. I had 3 amazing kids.
Yeah.
Things didn't work out.
Mm-hmm.
Probably because of a lot of my drugs and alcohol.
Right.
And then I moved back to Cranbrook. And yeah.
The rest is history. So
well, there's a lot in there.
There's a lot of history. So you guys started sharing in Worldwide, which you and I have talked about behind the scenes, which is an incredible thing. So you guys started sharing and talking more about addiction, recovery, and those type of things. So I guess we'll just kind of go into that and when did that start when did your story begin with that?
My story began, I guess, I remember having a beer with my grandpa when I was 16 years old at the Veterans Hall. Labatt Blue Stubby. I can remember it quite well.
I remember those.
Showing my age too here.
Yeah.
But I started really drinking, getting into it when I moved out to Cranbrook when I was about 16 years old. I didn't know anybody. I wanted to fit in. So, okay, well, let's drink. So.
Right.
And I didn't really stop. I know. I always chased the bottle.
Always okay.
Yeah.
So was drinking more of your thing, or did it
Yeah.
kind of it did it? So as they'll say one thing is the gateway into something else. Do you think that that is right? Do you agree with that?
I will agree with that. Yeah.
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 So what was the thing that made you trying drugs? Like, was it just that, were you like
I wanted to
how
fit
it
in.
goes?
Like,
You
like
just
I
want to
say,
fit in.
I
Yeah.
was kind of taken away from my family and my friends in Ontario, and I was dropped into this place, and I didn't know anybody. I
Yeah.
didn't know anybody. So, how do you fit in? I have
Right.
no idea. So, drugs and alcohol. So,
Right.
mhm.
Yeah, because I mean, going through that I think at any age it's tough, but like
Yeah,
when you're a teenager especially and you're being uprooted and moving across the country, that's
absolutely. Into high
really
school
tough.
too. Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
That makes
yeah,
it really tricky
yeah.
for sure.
Hmm.
So you, was it a very, like, was it a slow thing or
It
did it
was a
go very,
progressive. It definitely was progressive. It would
yeah.
be weekends and that.
Hmm.
And wow, where did it really take hold? I've always drank, as far as I can remember back, and I would drink to get drunk. It wasn't,
Hmm.
I always joke now, I've never gone for a beer. I've never
Right.
gone for a beer because
Yeah.
I'd always go for 10, 12, 15 till I was done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So do you think that would you say that it was something that that's just how your body is? You were like, some people have that, they say they have that gene or they were born that way. Because some people just get into it because of like traumatic stuff. Some people, you know, there's different viewpoints
I,
on that.
I would say, I've had a lot of, I'll put it bluntly, I've had a lot of shit thrown at me through my life.
Hmm.
And every time I turn more and more to the bottle. So I would say it is a progressive thing.
Yeah.
Um, I didn't know how to deal with any kind of emotions or anything like that. It was kind of weird. I got sober and all of a sudden I started feeling again. And I really, really didn't. That was one of the weirdest things when you get sober. You
Right.
start feeling real emotions again. You don't know how to deal with it
Yeah.
because, I always turn to the bottle.
Right.
Hmm.
And then, so you have a good support system
I
around
do.
you.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's the only way you stay sober. You
Yeah.
need people that have been there. Like my fiance Tiana, like she's been
Hmm.
there through
Yeah.
my recovery from day one. She's been there. She's the
Yeah.
reason I got into recovery. Actually, she says, if you want to be with me, I'm not going to be with a drunk.
Okay.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah.
so
Yeah, I mean, it's tough watching somebody you love go through that for sure.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, and it takes a strong person to stick it out and stay
Mm-hmm.
to go through that because that's not an easy process, I
No,
can't imagine.
no, it isn't. It isn't.
Yeah. So did you go into a recovery, like a treatment center? Did you
No.
just quit
Uh,
on your own or how did you?
I went to 12-step meeting, and I went to 366 meetings in 365 days.
Okay.
I figured if I drink every single day, I can go to recovery and give that every single day. And that's what it took
Right.
for me.
Yeah.
So,
And you got a sponsor through that,
yeah,
through
I
the
did.
program?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I have a
So,
couple actually. So,
oh, okay.
yeah.
So I guess that would be something that maybe somebody would want to know too, is when you have how does that work when you have a sponsor? Is that just when you're feeling like you could be in trouble, you have that person to call, or do you talk to them anytime you want? Like, how does it
I
work
talk
with
to
the
them
sponsor?
anytime I want. These
Yeah.
are, you really, when you pick a sponsor, it's because you bonded with this person and you see, okay, this guy has what I want. I know
Hmm.
when I looked for a sponsor originally, I wanted somebody that's had a relapse, that has seen,
Mm-hmm.
these are the signs that Chris, you're slipping. This is what I went through. Get your
Right.
stuff in order. So,
Yeah.
mhm.
Right. And so how long did it take you to go from what you were doing to finding AA, I assume it is, the 12-step program. So how many years was that before you decided to,
Of heavy drinking,
mm,
I was probably 12 to 15 a night for 4 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then drugs
Oh yeah, well, you got to do drugs
mixed
to
in
stay
there.
sober. Come on, you need to do drugs to keep drinking,
Oh, okay, got
right? And
it.
then you got to come down from those drugs, so you got to take other drugs to do that.
And were you
'Cause-
working this whole time
oh
through
yeah,
this whole process?
yeah,
You worked the whole time.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah. That's normal though, right?
Yeah.
That was normal. That's
You
what
can
I saw
justify
as
it.
normal.
Yeah.
Yep,
Because you're
yep,
working, you've got a job, you're good.
yeah. My bills are paid. Everything's fine. This is normal.
Right.
You know, this is what normal people do every day of their lives.
Right.
No, it's not normal.
So what was the thing that you finally, I mean, Tiana obviously saying
Yep.
that was pretty good indication, but was there something else that made you go, holy shit, like I need to change, this is
I
not
had
good?
lost all contact with my kids for a year and a half. I couldn't talk to them on the phone. I couldn't text message them. I couldn't email them. I wasn't even allowed having indirect contact through my mom to know how my kids were doing.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's hard.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Very
Like I
hard.
say, these are these little traumas all the way through your life, and they build and build and build. And,
Right.
mhm.
Yeah. So then you join, so then it's time to join a program.
Well,
Did
it
somebody,
wasn't time to join a program. It was time to give it up.
right.
Like I'd been trying to run a show for all these years. Nothing's working. This is
Mhm.
Chris's way. Chris has got to figure out, okay, my way of thinking is screwed. So what am I going to do?
Right.
So I had the most unbelievable person I turned to for help, and he, without any hesitation, he got me in, and yeah, haven't looked
Right.
back since.
Yeah. Has it been, some people can go through recovery and it's not, I don't like to say it's easy, but some people have a really, really hard time. Some people can make that transition fairly easily. Would you say that has it been easy? Not easy, but has it been like, because I think what people that are kind of thinking maybe they should do that, they're scared of that part. They're scared to get, because they don't know what they're going to be like. They identify as that person who's, their life is a disaster and all this stuff
Mm-hmm.
is going on. They identify with that. So to get rid of that, as much as they want to, they're scared to make that change. Because then
Surrender.
who are you?
It's
Yeah,
surrender. That's the word you're looking for. Okay.
that's the word.
Steps 1 through 3 summed up. I have them right here.
Mm-hmm.
1, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives have become unmanageable. 2, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. 3, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. You want to sum those up. Step 1, I can't. Step 2, He can. 3, let Him.
Right.
So for me, when that was summed up in the very first meeting I was at, it was like, well, my way of thinking isn't getting me anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Something in this program works. I'm going to turn it over. Like I was raised in a Christian home with my mom and my sister, and I had that belief. But when I moved out to BC, I was just like, oh, I'm going to have fun now. Now it's
Right.
my time to party.
Right.
So I always knew my higher power was there. I just
Mm-hmm.
pushed him. I don't want any part of that. When I
Right.
surrendered and said, okay, I'm done, I can't do this anymore, all of that, that's when things change. And I think that's what people struggle with the most,
Mm-hmm.
is turning it over. Whether that's,
Right.
any kind of addiction.
Yeah.
Or you and I have talked in the past, and I think everyone's recovering from something.
Absolutely. I agree
So
with you.
everyone has some sort of trauma in their lives, and I'm really learning lately. I've been holding on to a lot of these resentments from my past, and I'm really learning lately I need to turn it over because it keeps eating me alive, and it comes out on the people around me, and it sucks.
Right.
So
And I think the hard thing to understand, and I struggle with this as well, because there are things that I've gone through that, just recently, it's kind of like, you know what, I thought I was done with that, but maybe I'm not. Like, and
Yep.
you
Yep.
think that you're done with it, and then something will come on, and it could be the most silly little thing. Like, it doesn't even
Absolutely.
have to be a major thing.
Yep.
It's like, what? And you start
Where did
feeling like
that
this
come from?
weird thing, and it's like, what is going on? Like, what is
Yeah.
wrong with me? And then all of a sudden it's like, oh,
Right.
I thought I was done with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, obviously not. So
No.
it's that when people say, let it go, turn it over, surrender,
It's not easy.
it is not easy.
No, not at all.
And it becomes some of those words, especially through social media, those taglines or those little like hashtags, they become the meaning isn't behind them anymore.
No.
It's like a buzzword
a cliche
or whatever.
almost. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, let it go. Okay, how do I do that?
You don't think I'm trying to do that?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
And it's such a personal thing that you can't put a time frame on it. It's just, you have to go through it in your time, and you have to feel the feelings.
Yeah, it sucks. It sucks.
And I think too, for men, it is worse. I will always say I think it's worse for men than it is women.
I agree.
Women have I don't know if it's easier, but we're built differently. So feelings are something that we're more, maybe have a better, not better, but we understand it a little differently
I think you can
than
also
you guys.
communicate it better than we can.
Right.
Because
isn't it's the case that men are supposed to be strong and you're supposed to be all these things, and it's like, you know what, you're a human being, like, get out of here. It's so ridiculous.
It's okay to feel it, That's what my sponsor said. It's okay, Chris. You're allowed to be pissed off. You're allowed to be sad. Like, this is some heavy shit.
Yeah.
It's okay to feel it.
Right.
It's what you do with it, though.
So now, when you're going through something, what do you do differently?
I'm praying a lot. I do. I've realized that I have to turn it over. It doesn't matter. Every minute of the day, I'm struggling with stuff. I think they're going outside soon, so we can talk about that in a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's sometimes it's 1 minute at a time.
Right.
And I've got an amazing support group. If I'm having a hard time, I can text the wife and say, hey, I need a hand.
Yeah. Sometimes that's all it takes. You just need that person to say, good, yeah, it's okay. You reach out to me, and no judgment.
Yep.
Because I think people are afraid of being judged.
Oh, yeah.
By everything that you've done.
Yeah.
The judgment that's a hard one.
Yeah. And I know, like I said that in my original post there. There's never any judgment. If somebody's struggling in addiction or alcoholism, depression, anything like that, we're all struggling. So nobody should be passing judgment on anyone. It's yeah. If you want to reach out to those who want to help.
Yeah. And that is really like, everybody in society is worried about being judged. Like, and it's just, it's hard, because if you have the wrong people in your life, that can eat you up, and it can destroy you for sure. 100%. So did you have to, because I think it was Dave that was talking about this, I asked him if he had to change his entire circle of friends. Did you
Absolutely.
have to
that was difficult, but at the same time, I lost, you realize who your real friends are, because they're the ones that stick around when you get sober. They're the ones that reach out and say, hey, good for you, or hey, do you need a hand?
Right.
The other ones I used to party with, I see them now and then, but yeah.
It's interesting.
People, places, and things, yeah.
People, places, and things. I know I was friends with a person before, like years and years ago, different place in my life, and it's interesting because it was, you'd meet up on a Friday after work or whatever, and of course you're drinking and carrying on. You're talking about all the bad stuff that went on during the week. Nothing good, but let's keep drinking.
Yeah, maybe it'll get better.
and let's get together the next Friday and talk about the same thing. And but when things hit the fan in
Yeah.
my life,
Yeah.
was that group there? No,
No.
because
No.
they were still drinking and talking about, it's that you're in that situation where like-minded people,
Yeah.
you get caught up in that, and it's very easy to get caught up in that.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
Because negativity and misery loves company, I guess is the saying. So, yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
So you had to change your whole circle.
I did. When I moved, I had to move back to Castlegar, and Nelson, Castlegar. It's a half-hour drive between, and Nelson was my playground. That's where I threw shit away, basically. So when I moved back to Castlegar, I was coming back to a lot of the same people and the same places, and it was a real big challenge coming back here. And I remember my boss, he's like, "You okay? You coming back here? This is." But like I say, the people that I used to party with, they've moved on or they're still partying. I don't want any part of that. So I have very few select people here that I still keep in contact with. I love so much because they've always stood behind me.
Yeah.
And like, it's a totally different life now. And it's funny too, I can go into a bar here now that I used to go to, and they're like, "Chris, you want a beer?" No, I'll have a coffee. And they kind of look at me like I'm green.
Yeah.
So,
and does that bother you at all? Because I know some people can't be around that at all.
I couldn't be around that for a while, but I'm not going into a bar by myself. First of all, I'll always have somebody that knows that I don't drink,
right?
That understands, and I'm not going in to drink. And I'm going in there. There's obviously a reason I'm going in there. So, yeah.
Yeah, because I know and I'm asking, those questions might sound silly, but I want to make sure that if somebody's that's watching this, and somebody will be, that it's okay to be, that stuff triggers you, but have that person or have somebody that you will help you get through those moments.
Absolutely. Yeah. I forget what I was going to say there.
Yeah. Well, I remember too, I did a year where I didn't drink at all, and it was very interesting because what happened in that year was it made people that I knew uncomfortable. It made them uncomfortable.
It does. Well, how do you act around somebody that doesn't want to drink? And we do a lot of work out of town, and we're in hotels, and my coworkers, they all love it. I'm not going to judge. They like their beer, and that's fine. Whatever. They can work, they can function. It doesn't affect them in any way. But I always kind of feel like an outcast because you're like, well, Chris doesn't drink, so how do we, talk to them? But it's, I don't know. It's different. It's different.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't change it for anything.
Right.
I wouldn't change it for anything. No.
Yeah. Well, because I remember specifically getting this question asked to me, like, well, are you ever going to drink again? And I was like, I don't know. Like,
I don't know either.
I have no idea. No. But it was like, well, then I also had people, well, maybe I have a problem. It starts making people, it throws people into a weird place because it's become the thing to do. Like everybody, like the mums groups, it's glorified a little bit, right?
Yeah.
And recently I've started to see this, I think it was on either Instagram or Facebook, but they're starting to open up bars for sober people.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so there's obviously no alcohol in there, but there's still, it's that same setting, it's that same, and I was like, that's a good idea, because I mean, it's such a strange, everything focuses around drinking and eating socially, right? You're going to go to a house party, people are eating and drinking.
A glass of wine?
Yeah.
No thanks,
Yeah. And then when you don't take that, it's like, oh, Like, what's
Yeah.
up with that guy or that
Yeah,
girl or
exactly.
whatever,
Yeah,
right?
but
So, yeah, it's a funny, that year was a very interesting year. I mean, it was a great year. It was very, you become pretty clear.
mhm. Yeah, you do.
And that's the
And you
thing
really
that,
see, it's kind of funny now. I'll go out with some guys like Wayne Knight, and I'll
mhm,
see everyone around getting hammered. And it's just like, wow, this is crazy to see, One drink too for me, one drink, and I'm right back to that because I know I won't
right.
have one. But it's
Yeah,
kind of a good reminder to see, okay, this is what
right.
happens when someone drinks. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing how clear your mind becomes
Hmm.
when you don't, after a certain amount of time, you just become very, it's kind of
Aware.
like the curtain is
Yep.
drawn, like it's
Yeah.
opened up and it's like, oh,
Hmm.
yeah, for
Hmm.
sure. So how how long has it been?
April 12th, 2013. I'm coming up on 7 years. Wow.
Good for you. Wow.
Yeah. Wow.
It is crazy.
It is. It is. I never thought if you had told me that 7 years ago, I would have laughed at you. That's no possible way.
Right.
No possible way.
Yeah.
But one day at a time.
Yeah.
There's that cliche again, but that's what I mean. 1 minute at a time
One
sometimes.
minute at a time.
Yeah.
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 It's now throughout that whole time you did keep your job. You were never without a job, is that right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you didn't have to try to, because I think that's also scary
Oh,
for people.
no. No, I did lose my job there for a little bit.
Oh, did you? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
Because I think for some people they're worried too because they've done things. Caesar has been on and talked about his past and
Yeah.
being in jail and different things, and that is also the thing. People think they can't get past
Hmm.
those bad things that they did, or how am I ever going to succeed, or how am I ever going to do good at my job? And you can.
Yeah,
There's,
absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely. It's a new day every day. Every morning
mhm,
you wake up and it's a new start,
yeah,
you know? And I've done some really shitty things in the past, but I acknowledge them, I
mhm,
own them, and I move on from them.
yeah,
You can't hold it against me now because there's nothing I can do about it, you know?
right.
So
And that's part of a 12-step program is
it
making
is.
amends,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you go back and make
Hmm.
amends with those you've wronged.
Yep. And it
It,
takes time. It takes
yeah,
time and it opens up a lot of wounds.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
that is very, very hard. But again, it's that key is the support system around
Yeah.
you to help you
Yeah.
get through that.
But it feels good too. Once you get it out and it's out of the way, you don't have to look over your shoulder. You don't have to worry about, oh, he's talking shit about me again. Doesn't
Right.
matter. Yeah.
Yeah. So, what was I going to, I was going to, now I can't remember. Well, that's shocking. My 51-year-old brain not remembering anything. Um, you guys have how many kids together
Tiana
in
and I,
total?
oh, we have four. I have three amazing kids from a
Yeah,
previous marriage, and she has one.
right.
So we have
And
four. Yeah.
yeah, and are they, what ages do they range?
9 to 13.
Oh, the fun
Oh, yeah, fun.
ages.
Right.
Boys, girls
Yeah, my
combination.
oldest, she's 13, and then
Yeah,
11, 11, and 9.
nice.
Yeah, boys and
Yes.
girls in there. Yeah.
Are you okay to talk about,
Yeah, we
not
can
yet.
talk about that.
So I was gonna, but I was gonna not talk about that. But the other thing was you mentioned you weren't allowed to see them or talk to them
No,
or communicate with them.
no.
So how did you get from that point to where you are now? Because that
First
is
off, I had
also
to
a
get
thing.
sober. I had
Yes.
to get sober. I want to be, that was the other thing, I didn't have a relationship with my kids. I didn't have a relationship with my dad. So that was huge. I want my kids in my life. I need to get sober.
Mm-hmm.
So, and little by little, over the past 9 years, I finally got my kids every weekend, which
Yeah.
is amazing.
Yes.
Another miracle in my life. But I had to fight tooth and nail for every minute I had them.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't easy. I had a DUI, so I didn't have a license, and I was 3.5 hours away. So we had to make do with what little time we had. I had a buddy that picked me up in a semi, driving me over. He'd pick up a load, and I'd stop and see my kids for 10 minutes, and then we'd hop back in, take another 4-hour drive back home. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Because I think that's also a thing with people when they are in despair, because
Yeah.
that is a very traumatic thing.
Hmm.
They don't think that that's ever possible again.
I didn't.
Yeah.
I didn't. Like, there was there was a lot of lies made up that were put into the court system and prevented me from seeing my kids.
Mm-hmm.
And it was bullshit, and I had to fight it all the way through. And turning point, really, in that is the thing that we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
My kids, my daughter, who was 6 at the time, and my son, that was 4 at the time, were being sexually abused by their stepfather for 1.5 years.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like talking about this, but it gets power out of it. This is what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So my ex phoned me because she walked in on it happening.
Mm-hmm.
And she realized right then, she's like, Chris, I've trusted all the wrong people. All you've ever wanted was to be a part of their life, and I kept you from it. So that's when everything really changed in my life.
Mm-hmm.
That was 2 weeks before I celebrated my 2-year sobriety.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, that was the most challenging thing, and still is, that I battle every day. Every day, that one is a constant battle.
Yes.
When I say I moved back to Castlegar, my kids called me and said, Dad, he's getting out of prison. We're scared. What do we do? Well, when your kids say that, you jump.
Right.
So
And
I
that's why you
left.
moved back there.
Yeah, I left Tiana, my fiance, and her stepdaughter in Cranbrook, and I moved over here by myself to be closer to them.
Right.
So
you moved away from the person that is your biggest probably support person.
yeah.
So when you did that, because I mean, that is something that nobody wants to experience or go through. That
No.
is horrible, and I'm sorry that happened. How did you get through that in the beginning? Because that's something that could send a person on a very bad spiral.
Yeah. I don't know how I got through that. I really don't. I didn't really have much of a choice. Your kids say, we need you. We're scared. You're there for your kids.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
I
found a really good church, and I hooked in with really good people.
Yeah. And you and your ex, it sounds like that is a huge step as well, because people get into a battle with each other,
Mm-hmm.
but she had sense enough to make that call to you.
Yeah.
No matter what was going on.
Yeah. Yeah. And like I said, that changed everything.
Mm-hmm.
She realized, I'm not that horrible person, and I've been blessed with my kids again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it isn't hopeless. There is always a way.
There's always a way. There's
Yes.
always hope. There is always hope. It doesn't matter how shitty your situation is, where you are. I was living in a hotel room, barely able to make ends, eating hot dogs from 7-Eleven.
Right.
Like, I had to borrow money from Tiana when I was living in this hotel. Her and I split up so I could have a place to live.
Yeah.
But one choice, turn it over, everything over.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So fast forward to today,
yep.
You guys are living together.
Yeah, we bought a house. A little over a year ago.
Right.
Yeah. Got my divorce finalized in hopefully January,
Yeah.
and 2020 goals.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
you guys are so every weekend you guys they come every weekend? You
Yep.
spend with
Every
them?
weekend they hop on the bus and they come here and let
Yeah.
themselves in.
That's very cool. Oh, that's that's probably our behind the scenes man.
Hi, Mike.
So I guess what the biggest message out of all of this would be,
There's
what would
hope.
you say?
There's always hope.
Mm-hmm.
Just reach out. All you got to do is reach out. Um, I'll I'll put a list. There's about 25 people that we made a list of, that are willing to help at any moment. If you're struggling, you don't need to. There are people that have gone before you that want to help and that
Yeah.
will do anything to help you.
Right. And it's the one.
I'll tag that list in the comments here too.
Yeah,
as
please do. Please do. Because it's that whole thing is, if this is one person, which it will reach one person,
One person.
it'll reach,
Yep.
it's just one.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
So how are your kids doing today?
My kids are amazing. They are so resilient. They bounce back so well. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I'm so proud of them.
You know, and that's something I often say too, when people are going through a hard time, they don't see their kids, there's stuff going on in their world that isn't good.
Keep
And I always
fighting.
say, you know what? And those kids grow up. The right now might be shitty,
Yep.
but they grow up, they become an adult, and they start seeing you as an adult.
Yeah.
Not just mom and dad.
Mm-hmm.
You're a person.
Yeah.
And it becomes a very different situation
It
because,
does.
as you said, lies get told,
Mm-hmm.
stories get made up,
Mm-hmm.
because whoever's doing that is probably, they're terrified. So they're doing stuff they shouldn't,
Mm-hmm.
that's human nature. But it's, eventually it will work itself out and it will be okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what are you guys, do you get time off for Christmas or?
We get a couple days off. We're
Yeah.
completely swamped. We're always a couple of months behind trying to keep up.
Right.
So,
yeah,
yeah.
you once in a while you post a few pictures in Worldwide of your work and it's like, oh yes, there he is, and there he is.
Yeah, we don't stop.
Yeah, you guys are busy.
Yeah.
In that area. So now you said Nelson was kind of your playground, and I wanted to touch on that because Nelson is a very unique little community, I would say.
It is, yeah. Yeah.
It's not very big.
Nope.
How many people are in Nelson?
I think there's about 11,000 now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember Nelson. I remember going there years ago.
I love Nelson.
It's beautiful. I love Nelson too, and I will say it is the first place I ever saw somebody walking down the street smoking weed and playing the bongo drums. So
typical Tuesday.
I can understand why it would be a playground for many people.
Yep, it is. Yeah.
But yeah, that's I think also when it comes into like addiction or alcoholism or any of those things, it can happen anywhere, but in a smaller center, I think the chances of that happening are greater because there isn't a lot of things to do.
Correct.
You don't have access. I mean, maybe in a big city it's just hidden better,
Mm-hmm.
but I think there's more things. You have access to more things in a bigger center, and you can not be caught up in those small town activities that
I agree. I got sober in Cranbrook, which has about 34,000 people.
Yeah.
I don't think I could have got sober in Nelson.
No,
it's just so small and it's in your face and everyone's there and you know everybody and they're all doing it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Very similar to where I grew up. I think it was 1,200 people where I was when I was a kid. So it was small, but I mean, I want to say those kind of things that you do when you grow up in a small center like that. It's like that's what your parents did, and that's what so and so did. Like, and it's just it repeats. And I mean, drinking is the first thing you're doing as a teenager or pre-teenager. Oh, it's more than socially acceptable for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
So it kind of feeds that you're all good.
Mm-hmm.
You're
This is
cool.
normal.
It's normal.
Right.
And then you get away from that and it's
Yeah.
like, whoa, that
Mm-hmm.
is not normal.
No.
Because I know, once when I met Rex, he's not a drinker. Like he'll have a beer, but
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's like, I'll talk about stuff like when we were kids and like what we were doing, and he's just like, what? Like it's foreign to him because he grew up in Vancouver, so
Oh yeah.
was a completely different way of living.
Mm-hmm.
You guys were doing what every weekend? Like it was, and I'm like, yeah, that's what we did. Like everybody was drinking and driving and whatever. Like all kinds of interesting things went on. Which I think too, Dave touched on that. He said like for him, not all of it was bad. Like
no, I had a lot of good times, but any time it was bad, there was always alcohol.
Right.
There was always alcohol. And there were a lot of bad times.
And I know when he said that, I'm sure people were kind of going like, that's a strange thing to say. But I think it is one of those things too that people have to understand that it doesn't necessarily mean that rock bottom for everybody is different.
Absolutely. Stop digging if you're there.
Right.
Because it'll keep going.
Yeah. And those of us that are watching that happen and you tried to help people and you think, okay, this is it. Like this will for sure be this is rock bottom.
No.
It can go a little lower.
Yeah. A lot. It can go a lot lower.
Yeah.
It can go a lot lower. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the thing too. I think when people are trying to help somebody that is in trouble, they end up enabling them because they think that's their way of showing them how they love them.
Yeah.
Because they're scared, so they enable that behavior.
Yeah, my mom used to do that.
And parents would be the ones that would do it.
Yeah.
And so did your mom reach a point where she finally couldn't?
Yep. She used to turn her phone off at 10 o'clock at night because she was sick of having the phone calls at 3 a.m. Oh, I love you. I miss you. My life's so horrible.
Right.
Yeah. But she went to Al-Anon, so she learned a lot through that,
Mm-hmm. And so for you, when she did that, what was your reaction to that?
I didn't know how to handle that.
Right.
Well, you've been helping me. You've been enabling me for years. What do you mean you're not going to? Come on.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, that was weird. It was really weird, but that was right near my end as well. So it was kind of a wake-up call then, too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that's what people, it's hard because they love you so much that, for her to do that was probably just devastating.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. She said it was one of the hardest things she'd ever done.
Because then you don't know what's going to happen.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, if I'm getting a call at 3 a.m., at least I know he's alive.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Al-Anon, I know, is a very good organization for people too. Like, I don't know. I'm assuming they have it for like any other addiction as well. Like to support the people who are the ones that have the people they love in trouble.
There's a lot of groups out there now as well. Small individually run groups that support parents with active addicts or alcoholics too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we did touch a little bit on faith, but let's talk a little bit more about faith. So you grew up in a faith-based house.
I did.
A Christian home. Yeah. So you always kind of had that growing up, that base of knowing.
Yep. And like I say, I turned 16. I was like, well, I'm going to go out and I'm going to party and this is my time. And I basically turned my back on him. Mm-hmm. And then, when those first three steps were summed up to me that very first night, I can't, he can, let him. It just made so much sense. Like, Chris, surrender. It's not working.
Right.
And that's what I mean. I don't know anybody else that's gone through 12 rounds of chemo that worked spraying foam through the whole thing.
Right.
Like, I didn't take a single day off. You want to tell me that was fluke, or my buddy says, oh, you got lucky. No, I didn't. I was blessed through that whole thing.
There is no such thing as luck,
no.
I don't believe.
And like my recovery when I turned it over that first night, it was a light switch. And you tell me that that kind of alcoholism just shuts off like that.
Mm-hmm.
Gone, like light switch, gone.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So I guess over your time in sobriety, I'm sure you have more than likely come across people who struggle with faith.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the biggest struggle. You were asking earlier, what do people struggle with most in recovery? And that's what I would say it is for me. You can't, it's getting past that step 3. Let him, I don't know what to say. I don't know how to word that. We'll leave it for now.
I remember somebody saying to me one time that, because I think what happened, and again, this is just my own experience with this, but this person said to me, people get caught up in the term God, the label of God.
Yeah.
And so it becomes, people who aren't about that and people who are, and there gets to be that old battle that'll go on for the end of time. And this person said to me, I don't care what a higher power is. If that's a tree for you, let it be a tree.
Whatever works.
You make it work for you, and that is your thing. It doesn't have to be what that label
defined as God. Yeah. I've heard in the rooms as well, God, good orderly direction.
Right.
So group of drunks.
Yep.
A lot of people find their higher power speaks to them through a meeting or something, through other people. Whatever works for you, it doesn't matter,
Yeah.
Find that spirituality, and use it.
Yeah. Yeah. It becomes tricky for people, I think, too, because you get the impression that people maybe sometimes think, oh, okay, so now I'm going to join a 12-step program. Now I got to become religious, and that's not my thing, and blah blah blah. And it's not that way.
It's not that way. No. Some people, 12-step program doesn't work. You get sober on your own. Good for you. If whatever works for you. There's so many different programs out there right now. It's wonderful, the opportunities opening up for people who are struggling.
Yeah.
But yeah, for me, my recovery is faith-based. For sure. And it's funny too, if I don't wake up and turn it over, I'm having a bad day until I do. And it's obvious. It's obvious.
Oh, it's really?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So wake up and
turn it over.
When you're saying turn it over, does that mean is that like saying a prayer, or is that just like...
Give that 24. I can't do this. I can't do this. I'm going to follow what you got for me here today. And whatever it is, it is. So.
And when somebody is struggling, would you say, I don't like this term, but for some things it works, but fake it until you make it. So even if you don't believe...
No.
Would you say that works?
I think that's crock.
Yeah.
Fake it till you make it. If you're struggling, it's okay to struggle. It's okay to reach out and say, this sucks, I don't know how to deal with this. Right. Why fake it? You're not going to gain. I had another guy, he said, get sober or die, or get honest or die, because that's what you got to do in recovery. Okay, I'm having a shitty day. I need to talk about this. I got to get it out. Be honest with yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So and again, you've got a couple of people that are your sponsors. So is that like so you're at work and you're having a horrible day.
Yep.
Do you just stop, tell your boss,
pick up
and
my
go,
phone.
dude, I'm stressed, I got to talk, and
I just walk away now. I pick up my phone and I text one of my sponsors is in Mexico right now. I talked to him yesterday.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm having a bad day. He'll text something back, and it always makes sense. All right. You're right. I got it.
Yeah.
So it's good. Yeah.
Yeah. It's because I think too, with people, they might feel like because they're at work, they shouldn't stop, so they'll stuff it, and then, things will explode.
Yeah, right. That works really, really well.
right?
Yeah. Oozing
Espe-
sarcasm.
Especially in the industry you guys are in. So,
Right? Yeah, we work in a stressful industry for sure.
yeah,
Yeah, it lead away at you.
yeah,
Walk away. That's what I've learned. That's what the
yeah.
boss has told me, Chris. Just walk away. Let it go.
Yeah, it sounds like you've got a good boss.
Yeah, he's pretty understanding.
Yeah,
Yeah,
which is that's important too,
yeah, it
because
is.
if a situation isn't working, you got to find a new situation
Yeah.
and people that get it and understand. And
Hmm.
I think, it's kind of like Caesar. I'll go back to what Caesar said, because he said when he got out, he didn't, who's going to take a chance on him,
Yeah.
and it's important that people know you can share that stuff with people,
Hmm.
and you're going to find somebody that believes in you,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
somebody will take a chance on you.
Hmm. Well, the cool thing is too, and I see it now. People in recovery are some of the hardest working people you'll find.
Hmm.
They got something to prove, first of all. And second of
Right.
all, they've been pushing themselves to feed their addiction for this long,
Hmm.
right? Now, what are they feeding? Well, it usually comes out in work ethic.
Right.
And, we work hard.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Hmm.
For sure. So what would you say would be some of the biggest lessons you've learned so far
And
in recovery?
acceptance. It is what it is. It's put in my way. It is what it is. Whatever. Um, Not everything's going to be the way I want it, no matter what I try and do or manipulate a situation. Accept how it is, who it is, where it is, for what it is, and deal with it and move on.
Right.
Yeah,
That's a tough one.
it is. It is.
You got to accept things aren't going to go your way.
No, right?
That's a hard one.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. Um, oh, shoot. While you were saying that, I was going to say something too, and now I've forgotten. But, anyways, we are just about at our hour already.
All right.
See, you made it. You did
Yeah.
good. Wasn't as bad as you thought, was
No, it
it?
wasn't.
Yeah. You're gonna put a list in the
Comments there?
comments.
Yep.
We've got a lot of people. There are comments on here. There's a ton, actually. So we'll have to go back and go through the comments and answer them. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We've got Peyton I'm not sure how to. Peyton Walther Moran. Chris Cullum, it's great to hear your story and keep up the amazing work.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Bart Bonanno. Bart, I never know how to say your last name. Get high on hose, he says. Hose. I'm surprised there's not a meme in there with that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
There will be soon.
There will be soon. He's
Yeah.
the king of the memes.
Yeah.
Robert Vasquez says, I used to bring my brother-in-law to meetings and sit in on them. I
That's,
learned.
You know what?
Yeah.
Anyone that's trying to support someone in
That's.
recovery,
Thank you, Robert,
take
for
them
saying
to
that.
yes, thank you, Robert.
Yes.
Go to an open meeting because you will understand. You walk in, you'll be like, oh, that's my kid. All of you are my kid. I understand it.
Yes.
Understand the disease. If you're trying to, I don't care if you want to call it a disease or not, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get into that.
No.
If you want to support them, go to a meeting with them.
Yeah.
You'll understand a lot more and
Yeah.
be able to help a lot more.
He said, I learned many valuable lessons in those four walls from
Mhm.
from what some would consider the rejects of society.
Right.
He's clean for many years now, active military, married with a baby. I have a lot of respect for everyone in this group who shares their stories with Carla. Yeah, I mean, when I was in Calgary, took a young guy into a
Mm-hmm.
meeting and sat in that meeting with him.
Yep.
He was homeless and he was in construction. He was doing some work on a house that I had, and he was in trouble, and he was away from his family. And I said, I'll go with you, because I
Mm-hmm.
think that sometimes is,
That's the other thing.
you
Going
have
into a
somebody that'll
meeting
go
by
with
yourself,
you.
yeah, it's
You
tough.
walk into a room where there's a bunch of people and you don't know them, and they're all going to look at you, and you think you're
Yep.
the worst person in the room. You're
Mm-hmm.
not the worst person in
No,
the room.
you aren't. Trust me.
No.
No, far from it. You
But
might think you are, but you're in for a wake-up call.
yeah, I'm
Yeah.
so glad he said that, because that is
Mm-hmm.
very, very,
Yeah.
very important. And you
Yeah.
do learn so much. And
Yeah.
they are not whoever's in those four walls are far from the rejects of society.
Yeah. Yeah.
Far from it.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably the bravest in society are
Probably.
sitting in that room,
Mm-hmm.
because it takes a lot to get in there.
Yeah.
For
It does.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll go back and go through these comments, but do you have anything else that you want to say to wrap things up?
I don't think so. No.
No.
No, I'm
Okay.
good.
I
Yeah.
am so glad you came on.
Thank you for having me,
I
Carla.
think it was a few months ago that you reached out and said you wanted to come on, and then all of a sudden it was like, oh my gosh, you're on Saturday. Like, it goes by so fast.
I know.
And
Yeah.
it's like, oh no.
Yeah. Yeah.
But no, it's been great, and you're welcome back anytime.
Thank you, Carla.
You are welcome back anytime. And thank you guys for coming on with us and watching, and we'll go back and answer. I'm just kind of looking back through the comments. But yeah, we'll go back and answer them. And I guess it's our last one before Christmas. So
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to everybody. And we will see you guys all next Saturday. Rusty Schrader's coming back. So
Nice.
yeah, so we'll
Good.
have Rusty on. He's going to wrap up 2019. So
Perfect.
yeah.
Good.
So you guys have a good time putting up your tree.
Thank you.
Yeah, enjoy that. And we will
Yes.
we'll see you guys all next Saturday. Bye for now.
Bye.